And of course, before we get started, listen, spare me your jokes in the comments. I already know what you're gonna say. Oh, I regret watching this video. Oh, you should regret riding a Harley. Oh, you should regret riding a Sportster. Haha. Okay, glad we got that out of the way. Alright everybody, what is up? What is up? As always, thanks for stopping by to another video today. And as you can see, we are finally able to say we are back out on the lovely streets of Philadelphia. It has been a harsh, brutal, freezing cold winter here in southeastern PA. And as you can see, my check engine light is on the Sportster because it's been so cold. The battery was pretty much drained. I'm pretty sure that's like a low voltage code that the Sportster's throwing on me right now because it was sitting out in the cold for so long. And we're out on the Sportster right now, and if you guys have been tuning in for a while, there's two things that I've actually done to the bike towards the end of last year that I'm actually kind of starting to regret. So of course, you guys know Harleys, you can mix and match parts and interchange stuff, swap them out, modify these things like crazy. So many different parts and options out there that you can swap out of your bikes. Almost every model of Harley is that way. And sometimes those changes don't necessarily always turn out the way that you might have expected them to. I don't know, they might not have performed the way you wanted, might not have looked the way you wanted once you actually got them on there. So I'm curious to hear from you guys. Is there anything out there that you guys have done to your bikes that you kind of regretted? You took it off and just changed it right away, or you just weren't happy with the way that it turned out? Because if you think about it, you really don't ever know how these things are going to perform or how they're going to really look to your eye or your bike until you actually get these things on the bike. And I mean, hey, it can happen. So let me know down in the comments, have you guys ever done anything or upgraded, changed, swapped out anything on your bikes that you ended up actually not liking, you kind of regretted putting it on there? Let me know down in the comments. And so I'm going to run through two things I actually did recently last fall to the bike that I was pretty excited to do. If you guys know, I'm kind of transforming the Sportster into a little bit of a stripped down bobber style bike, and both of those things were with the intent of turning the bike into that, and they definitely did that and worked. But I'm kind of regretting them now on a couple different levels, mostly kind of from a performance aspect. We're going to pull over and I'm going to run through these two specific things that I'm not necessarily in love with that I changed out on my bike, and then let you know what I might be doing about them moving forward in the future. Alrighty guys, so we are off the bike now. We're here with the Sportster. And so what are the two things, the two modifications that I regret doing to this bike? Well, the first one we have here is the tank lift. So as you guys can see, I went ahead and did a wire tuck to clean up underneath the tank in between the frame and the motor. And initially it really wasn't my anticipation to have to do the tank lift that you see here. My hope was really to just do the wire tuck to clean up this whole space right here. But once I started to get into doing that project, I really found myself bundling up those wires underneath the tank here. I tried to squeeze them up onto the spine as much as I could. I just could not get the tank to sit back into the bolts perfectly. So really my only option was to go ahead and do this little tank lift. So the reason I regret having to do the tank lift, I didn't anticipate doing it. I really ended up losing a lot of range out of the tank. The tank is already a small tank at 3.3 gallons. And what I have found is I've almost lost a gallon of gas out of this tank by doing the tank lift. So I think what happens is as you raise the tank up a little bit, you start to shift some of that gas and fluid down into the point of this tank of the Sportster. I think a lot of it starts to get below the fuel pump possibly, and you really lose access to a lot of that, because what I have noticed is I've lost almost 20 to 30 miles on a tank after doing this tank lift, because what I'm noticing is I'm actually having to fill up around 65 to 75 miles on a tank, where I used to easily get up to 90 to 100 miles a tank and not even worry about it. And one time I actually did a test. I've run this out completely dry. I was close to a gas station. Luckily, I ran it out totally empty and I filled it back up, and I filled it with almost exactly 2.3 gallons of gas. So with a 3.3 gallon tank, that lets me know that I'm losing almost a gallon of gas out of this tank lift now with my range, which isn't exactly what I was hoping for, isn't what I wanted to do. But to complete the wire tuck here is something that I pretty much kind of had to do, because I couldn't get those wires bundled up and tight enough underneath there to get back in with the stock bolt position. So that's the first thing I regret doing to the Sportster. What could the second thing that I regret changing on the Sportster be? Well, actually, surprisingly, it's this exhaust here. So this is the Thunderstruck exhaust from Gallop Motorcycles. I will say I do actually really like the look and style. It really fits the style I was going for, with kind of a stripped down bobber Sportster look. But I will say, being that these are drag style pipes, straight through pipes, I've really lost a lot of performance here, lost noticeable amounts of horsepower and torque just from feeling of riding the bike is definitely noticeable when you're putting on those drag pipes. The straight pipes is something you're definitely going to notice. And from what I've researched, I should have done a lot of this research before I put these pipes on. I did some research after the fact. Because they are straight through, there's no back pressure there, with no baffle or anything like that. You're getting a lot of mix-up of airflow, so you're pushing the air out of the engine, and a lot of times on deceleration, it's getting sucked back up into those pipes, creating a lot of deceleration pop. I do like the noise at idle and for some normal riding, but when I get into some really good cruising and riding with these new pipes, you can really tell that there's a lot of snap, crackle, pop on these, which is just kind of loud and obnoxious. So that is the one thing that these pipes are known for, straight through drag pipes. And if that's what you're looking for, then these are going to be good for you. But I don't know that that's something I definitely wanted or anticipated. Like I said, should have done a little bit better research on this style of pipe before I got it and put it on the bike. Like I said, I do like the look and the style of the pipe, but again, this is not going to be the greatest option for performance. And so to wrap it up, will I be changing either of these two things that I regret to this bike for the tank lift? Probably not. You can't really do much with retucking the wires or anything like that. I would never bother with something like that. I like the open, free space it creates there. I will just deal with the tank lift and the change of range of gas on the tank. It's not a real problem for me. Not doing any long traveling with the bike really at this point. And then for the exhaust, I'm thinking I might actually go ahead and look into a 2-to-1 option here. I love my 2-to-1 on my Street Bob, so I might eventually look into a 2-to-1 option. A little better sound, a little better performance with a 2-to-1 on the Sportster. Alrighty guys, so that will go ahead and start to wrap up this one for now. Like I said, if you guys have any regrets that you've ever done to your bike, any stuff that you threw on hoping you were going to love it and didn't actually love it, let me know down in the comments. I'll be curious to hear some of your feedback on that. But like I said, that's what I have for me. A little bit of regret on a tank lift, a little bit of regret on this exhaust as well. And as always, if you guys like anything we got going on here, make sure you go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, ride safe out there, guys. Make it a good one. It's the Moto John. We'll see you all on down the road. Peace.